Hello, my friends. Hello, hi. If this is your first time here, hi. My name is Arlene. I am a late diagnosed autistic person with ADHD. I've known it for about 3 years, and here I am in my studio trying to figure out what does it mean to be a late diagnosed person, and what does it mean when I look back on my life. And now knowing what I know, I like to give myself a little bit of relief when it comes to those stories the stories that pop up late at night when I'm trying to sleep and suddenly I'm remembering when I was 8 and some weird thing that happened. Well, now that I know about autism and ADHD and those traits and what it means to have been an undiagnosed autistic child, I can reframe that experience and hopefully feel better about it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm reframing this experiences, and I want to tell you a story. I'm going to try to stick to a format. So that was the introduction. Yeah, that was the introduction. So now is the time when I want to ask you to, share, whatever, do something to wake up the algorithm right now and, share this whatever, because I'm all about business, big business, and getting subscribers because I'm very serious about that. No, I'm not, and that was really awkward. Here's the story. This story is called I Am a Thief That Cannot Be Trusted. Here's how it goes. So I think I'm about 8 years old, and Mom's got a friend from work visiting, which is not a really common thing. But anyway, this lady is at the house, at the kitchen table, and Mom and this lady are smoking loads of cigarettes, drinking loads of coffee, and just like, I don't know, talking about whatever. These are the smoking times. I'm about 8 years old. Lots of smoking. Everybody's smoking. People used to smoke everywhere. Anyway, smoking everywhere. This lady has brought her daughter, Nancy. She certainly seemed like she might have been a Nancy. When I look back in my mind, definitely had Nancy vibes. Nancy. Mom says,
Why don't you and Nancy go swimming?
swimming was a common thing, right? So we grab our stuff in our little plastic bags and off we go to the swimming pool and we swim and blah, 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 whatever. Nancy, I don't know Nancy, so it's always weird. It's weird getting paired up with people like, here, now you'll be friends with Nancy. I know, boring story, but this is really important because from the swimming pool, we go next door to the Max Milk. And Nancy says she's going to get a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, well, I've got 5 cents. That's all I have left. I don't know. Swimming was 15 cents. Maybe Mom gave us a quarter, so maybe I had 10 cents left over. Yeah, and then we walked up the hill, and it snowed every day, and we wore leaves on our feet. I don't know how much it cost to go swimming. It doesn't matter. The point is I didn't have any money, and Nancy suggested that we shoplift. Shoplift? We're going to steal. And she's given me this, like,
This is what we'll do.
I don't know. There's a person behind the counter, and Nancy is going through the candy aisle, and she's basically got her swimming bag open, and she's like dropping various candies in. Put some Lickamaids in there. She's got some waxed lips, all kinds of stuff. So I'm thinking, I don't want to duplicate what she's getting. I should get something else. And I'm in the candy bar aisle, right? With all the different chocolatey flavors. So I'm thinking, well,
What should I get? What should I get?
so I go over to Nancy and I say, what?
What kind of, what would you like?
And she's like, well, just get anything. And I'm like, well,
I don't know. Do you like,
and I list up, do you like Mars bar? Do you like Three Musketeers? Like a Big Turk? Nobody likes a Big Turk. And so she says, yeah, sure, Mars bar, whatever. And so I go back to my aisle, and then I've got a clever idea. I will just slip the candy bar into my sleeve. So 1 and 2 candy bars slipped up my sleeve. Caper executed. And then, yoink! The store guy, he grabs me by the back of the neck. He's caught a thief. He has caught a thief. The thief is me. Takes me to the back room.
Phone number. What is your mother's phone number?
I panic. I give my mother's phone number. I calls my mother.
Your daughter is trying to steal from us.
Hang up the phone. Time to walk home. Time to walk home. And along the walk home, Nancy's eating from her bag of ill-gotten loot. She's munching on chips and chewing gum and blowing bubbles and getting chips mashed up in her gum and spitting it out. And she's happy as Larry in a bowl of poop. This has worked out fine for her. I'm dreading it because, my beating awaits me, I'm sure. Mom is very calm. And Nancy's mom, they leave. Nobody says anything to Nancy. I don't say anything about Nancy. And then, stuff happens. And I try to explain that Nancy did this thing and that she encouraged me. And Mom calls Nancy's friend, or, Nancy's mom. And Nancy's mom says that Nancy says that none of that is true. And so not only am I a thief, I'm a liar. And I'm a snitch. And a false accuser. Okay, so that's a terrible story. So how can I reframe that? Isn't that a terrible story? So what was happening? What was going on? Okay, autistic, undiagnosed kid. What was happening is that I was being taken advantage of by another kid. Not the first time. First time that I really remember, that so vividly remember. But it's not a thing that's terribly uncommon. I can be taken advantage of. Yep, it's embarrassing to say at 61, and I consider myself to be quite canny and quite careful and quite scrupulous. But in fact, I have a number of situations in my life where I was a dim bulb and I allowed myself to be carried along into something weird and uncomfortable, and I didn't stand up for myself. So what can I do? How can I take this knowledge forward into my life? The best thing that I've been able to figure out in this circumstance is to pause, is to wait and pause. If I could go back and tell little 8-year-old Arlene that when 8-year-old Nancy says, let's steal some stuff, I wish I could have told little Arlene that you can say no. You don't have to go in the store. You don't have to protect her while she's doing it. I mean, I could have said, why didn't I say? Why didn't little Arlene say, yeah, but my friend has a bag of loot? I didn't. I just took it. So what can I do? Now, I can just be aware that there are times when I need to slow down, I need to take a beat, and I need to assess what's going on. I need to connect. Hopefully I can have the time to connect. Is this step that I'm about to take consistent with other goals in my life? I know, we can't know that when we're 8 years old. I look at that now as a parent, and I remember my kid who took a Lego minifig home after a play date. And how did I handle it with him then? I said, oh, sweetie, that's not your toy. And he said, I know, I was just borrowing it. I said, okay, well, let's take it back. Let's go walk over and return it. And thank him for lending you his toy and give it back. And that's what we did. And it wasn't a big deal. And he hasn't done it since. Yeah, I'm a perfect parent. Yeah, perfect parent. Yeah, so I'm just taking a look back. I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't a thieving kid. I wasn't a lying kid. I wasn't a disloyal kid. I wasn't a dishonest kid. I got swept up into peer pressure. Yeah, peer pressure. Turns out it's a real thing. And I think autistic kids, undiagnosed autistic kids, I think can get swept along in peer pressure just based on my own experience. How are we going to reframe this? How are we going to rename it? Reframe it, rename it. I'm going to call it The Time I Stole the Chocolate Bar? No. How can I reframe this in a way that I don't carry shame for feeling so, I don't know, dumb? And what do I see? I see an 8-year-old autistic kid deep in thought about how to process something. Someone whose executive function was offline. Okay, now that's a really long title. Maybe there's a better title. What's a better title? What do you think? These kind of situations happen, of course, undiagnosed childhoods. These situations happen through our childhood. Like in the last story I told you about, the baby powder story, about experiencing that sensory fabulousness. This is a different kind of thing. sensory peer pressure? Do we feel peer pressure? I guess we kind of do. I want to thank you for your comments that you made on the last video. I loved hearing your own stories, and I loved hearing how you also connected with the infinity mirror, the mirror that's in front of you, and the two flaps on the side. And when you fold them, you put your head in. It's like you could see into infinity. Isn't that fun? I love that we share that. That's so awesome. I love that we share that. Thank you for sharing your comments. And what do I want to tell you? I want to give you an update. I want to give you an update what's happening over at Patreon. In Patreon, I'm exploring some demos, some music demos that I found that I think are sort of like, they're songs, but they're journal entries about going into burnout. These are songs that, yeah, when I look back at the calendar and I look at my burnout cycles, those songs were written, I think, just before mutism. So it's kind of interesting looking at the lyrics and looking at the musicality and getting over the cringiness of my demos. They're old demos. They sound like crap. And thank you everybody over at Patreon for your insights. It's fascinating. I love sharing. I love sharing these neurodivergent thoughts with other neurodivergent people or neurodivergent, I don't know, loving people. I love sharing them. I love feeling like we're connected. Thank you for doing that. Okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this for a time slot. Yeah, this is me summarizing, right? I'm going to try this for a time slot. I'm going to post really early on Saturday, super early, insomniac early. So I'm going to be here when you wake up on Saturday, whether you're an insomniac or you're in a different time zone. Although I suppose in some time zones, it might not be the morning when you hear it. It might be the night before or the next night. So I'll see you when you wake up on Saturday next week. And what are we going to talk about? What story are we going to tell next week? I'm not sure if I want to tell you the story about, making chili from instructions. Do you want to hear about that? Making chili from instructions and what I learned about that? Yeah, let's tell that one. Let's talk about making chili from instructions. And you take care of yourself. When you look back on yourself and your kid, your little kidness, your little undiagnosed kidness, show yourself some compassion. Show yourself some squeegee love. Yeah, you were doing the best you could. Good for you. You did the best you could, and you're here now. Look at how far we've come. You take care of yourself. I'm going to take care of myself. And let's take care of some other people. So that's what we do. Was this your first time here? Hello, nice to meet you. Please subscribe. See you next week when you wake up. Peace. Stealing the chocolate bar. Or what do we call it? Otherwise, we call it stealing the candy bar. In Canada, we call it a chocolate bar. And in fact, it's one of the most popular candy bars. People love them. Candy bar chocolate. Why do candy has to do with the chocolate content? Yeah, anyway.